Hi, welcome to my political show, Count the Political Times. Today is the season 3 and the episode 3 of my political show. Today, the election is now pretty much almost finished in the US president election. It's almost done, and there's no question it's a tight race. But it shouldn't be so tight, but it shouldn't be. So before start the show, I want you to hit the like button and subscribe to my show, and also you tell me what should I talk about in the comment section. Now let's start off the show. Now, presidential candidate Joe Biden is now significantly on top, and he has more pathways to win the election than President Trump. It is significantly obvious, and anyone who knows general politics will know that more than anything else. But the people who are not willing to accept that are the people who made him win last time. So I dearly request the people, when something has to be lost, please let it lose. Because if you don't, then again the wrong president comes into power yet again. Now obviously Joe Biden and Donald Trump's last presidential debate, President Trump toned down the attack, but I would say this, both the candidates this time around separated itself. President Trump put on more lies and more conspiracy theories, whereas Joe Biden gave significantly more answers. But despite the fact, I don't think it moved anything. The political arena is the same as when these two were announced they would go ahead anyway. So generally speaking, the opinion about which is best has not changed, because the first debate was so bad, the second one, it doesn't matter how good it is, it can't recover from the loss of the first debate. That's the reality. And the first debate was such a disaster, there shouldn't have been one. And the second debate, I'm not sure it made sense practically either. It doesn't sense either. Because look, President Trump toned himself down, less volatile, less brutal, but he was still a bully. He was still lying about facts. He was still making these things up. And it's very hard to like someone on that department, but again, he did run last time despite being an absolute jerk on the point. But then again, it doesn't matter. What counts is your choice, and your choice should be Joe Biden. He has the emotion and the political sensibility to deal with a global pandemic. It's obvious he has the emotion as well. He also shows he has a plan for things. He encourages wearing masks significantly, and that is something that you should consider. And he infamous said hunker down and fighting against the virus is the best way to recover from the virus. And that's the only way. Because the United States messed it up by not wearing masks. It made the entire world a dangerous place this time around. Usually it's someone else who makes a bad place, and then the US become heroes. Not this time. They are the villains of the virus this time around. And unfortunately, they don't deserve the problem. And no American people deserve to die more than 200,000. And it should have never got there if the masks were worn in the first place. And if you look at somewhere like South Korea, it's very distinctively obvious that they got less deaths, less cases, because they followed the proper rules and the procedures, what was required. But the United States simply didn't. You got a president who refuses to wear a mask and encourages his supporters not to wear a mask. And when you have a president like that who doesn't trust the science, it's the people who are at risk. He doesn't believe in climate change. And who's at risk? It's us. We are at risk. And unfortunately, these matters are important. If there's any Trump supporter looking at this, I'm going to say clearly, if you want your grandchildren to survive in a world that's actually livable, don't vote for your favorite president, because if you do, you will regret your vote. And don't come going around saying he was the wrong choice in the yearbook, because there wouldn't be a yearbook left to write if you don't. It's like in high school. Sometimes you often think about the bully. You're so scared of the bully, you often just end up doing nothing about it. If you can't stand up to it, then you're pretty much done. You must stand up. And even if you are a Trump supporter, you have to be understanding the fact, since 2015, the economic growth was not entirely he was responsible for. It was the previous administration that built the economy, that recovered it, and which President Trump proudly carried on. Now, he should be admired for his economic strength and economic numbers and the employment rates, but all of those numbers are now gone. People are now struggling for jobs and income. People are struggling. And unfortunately, there's no light end of the tunnel at the moment. And even for Joe Biden, it seems significantly too much at the moment to make this economy recover. And I will not be surprised if the United States does go into economic recession like in 2008 and 2009. I would not be surprised. And if it does, the partial blame must go on to the people who voted for President Trump 5 years ago. But of course, Hillary Clinton didn't exactly got a good victory 5 years ago, even if she tried to win, considering she had many obstacles to win 5 years ago, and that's why she failed. But Joe Biden had none of those obstacles. He's at a far better position than Hillary Clinton at this stage of the election 5 years ago. Which means if there's any doubters he won't win, I might say, think again. Hillary Clinton didn't get much votes as you thought she would get. And then she lost by a bigger margin because obviously she didn't get it. But Joe Biden does get in that vote. And you can see he is extremely popular for the facts like economy and health and major factors, social and the society, social and etc. The reality is it's clear that there is a clear candidate who should win the election, but yet some people might not vote because he's not bold and aggressive enough like President Trump, might not be aggressive and bullish. But unfortunately, if everyone is a bullying in the political world, then there would be no politics left. And unfortunately, President Trump is one of them. But you should be saying this. It's not the man's fault he became the president. It's your fault. You voted, then you must bear the price. Because now regretting years later will not help the cause. And you now, American people, have a chance to make the right decision. Now, as myself, a political critic, I look at the facts and what I say. I support no political party. I look at facts. And that's the point. In terms of facts, President Trump's presidency has not been good. There's been more racial crises than any time in the history. It's almost like the H.W. Bush era when LA riots. How that ended? We don't need another LA riots like that again. Half a city burned in fire. We don't need that. And if it were to happen, don't blame the people who put the city on fire if it happens. Blame the people who are in power who simply dumb enough not to understand that personal feelings do not acquire in the job. And of course, the Supreme Court is another fact where President Trump have forever dented the Supreme Court now, forever and ever. The Republican Party was so quick to get the Supreme Court nominee in that they forgot something. They put an old-fashioned Supreme Court nominee. How does it make sense? If her policy, if what she's saying right, she will reverse every law that was passed for the betterment of society. She will not do anything to stop from anything happening. According to her, it's each state has the right to decide. Unfortunately, each states don't get their right sometimes because they are not always right. And think about it. If California says gay marriage is not allowed, then shouldn't the Supreme Court intervene and do what's right? Of course not, because if this Supreme Court it is, then this Supreme Court will not let that happen, because this Supreme Court is simply going to be a complete destruction of the society. Unfortunately, it's pretty clear on what's happening. The Supreme Court, the place for justice, is no longer a place for justice. And talking about the Supreme Court nominee's family and success and the number of kids, unfortunately, I'm sorry. You can have 8 kids if you want, but that doesn't define you at the job. It doesn't. And unfortunately, there won't be many people loving her, even if the vote goes in her favor by a margin. Unfortunately, that's the point. The American people must bear responsibility for their actions. They voted President Trump. Now they have a Supreme Court that won't do anything in the future. And unfortunately, for Joe Biden, there are more obstacles of getting a bill passed or even getting the help of the Supreme Court when the nominee of the Supreme Court is technically a Republican nominee. How does that help the future of the country? Now, if the Republican Party was running the country well, there wouldn't be a problem like George W. Bush. He fought off terrorism to make sure the United States is safe. That's fine. But if you are not running the country well, there's no need for a Supreme Court nominee like that. And why are they doing a Supreme Court nominee just before the election? And I'm going to say it up front. This election might be the most controversial election yet. Even the winning president might not get an opportunity. And if it's Joe Biden, I can assure you, he might not get many bills through or he might not get much done from the Supreme Court because it simply wouldn't. We all know how the Supreme Court nominees' policy seems to be. Let the states decide. Then what does that mean? The states might go haywire and then everything is finished. All bills that stood for the betterment of society, they will change and she will not do anything on the correct side of the fact. Because the Supreme Court is now simply a lazy bones, and that's the reality. And the Supreme Court in the past used to be a place for justice, but now a place for comical errors. And of course the blame must go for the Republican Party because they should hold responsibility. And today, thank you very much. Before that, thank you for joining my show. Hit the like button and subscribe to my show and find me in the comment section. And if you disagree with me or agree with me, thank you very much.